Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar, Wednesday webinar. Today's focus is going to be on treatments. We'll be discussing enzymes, our masks, and also some of our specialty treatments, which will include our switch and our oxygen. So if you guys can do me a favor, if you just want to message in the chat section, let us know if you can actually hear us. And then I'm going to share my screen now. Just a couple of different kind of housekeeping kind of things to mention is our chat section is going to be really good for more of like statements or comments. If you do have any questions, make sure you put those questions in the question and answer section, and that can be found at the bottom of this webinar. So there's that. All right, Caitlin, can you see my screen? I'm opening up the presentation now.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So you guys should actually now see my screen on here. So we have a couple different educators that are going to be on with us. So you do have myself. My name is George. I am one of the educators for Circadia. We also have Caitlin Macy, and then we also have Emily Ingalls. So both of them are going to be kind of co-teaching this presentation with me. So whenever we kind of first start talking about Circadia, we're really going to get into some of our products and also some of the treatments that are going to be heavily focused on here. This presentation, we're really not going to go super in depth on our chemical peels because we do have a webinar that's dedicated to that by itself. We're also not going to get super in depth with our switch and our oxygen. Those will be an upcoming webinar. We'll talk about those by themselves as well. So whenever we kind of first start talking about exfoliating the skin, there's a couple different ways that we can actually remove those surface proteins, and they do it in a couple different ways. So before we actually get into the Circadia enzymes, I really want to talk about the key difference between enzymes, acids, and a mechanical exfoliant. So, you know, we utilize enzymes, we utilize acids, we utilize mechanical exfoliants, whether it be dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, or a scrub. We utilize these different types of exfoliation because they have similar benefits to the skin. We utilize them because they all will remove surface protein and exfoliate the skin. However, the way that they do it is going to be completely different. The two categories that you really have to know the difference on is going to be enzymes and acids. So the key difference between enzymes and acids is an enzyme is going to utilize digestive proteins that will dissolve or digest the desmosome that's holding your skin cells together. One of the key benefits is enzymes, they do not create a wound in the skin. So on the other hand, chemical peels, they will attach itself to the protein of the skin, pull it apart. But one of the key benefits of an acid is it does create a wound in the skin. What's associated with that wound is an increase in collagen, elastin. You know, our body is going to see that as damage, and it's going to stimulate fibroblast activity at the same time as it's going to remove those surface proteins. So you really have to know when to enzyme and when to chemical peel. What's typically associated with acids is some amount of inflammation as well. What's not typically associated with enzymes is no inflammation. A lot of the time, enzymes can actually be anti-inflammatory. For example, bromelain, which is going to be that enzyme that's derived from pineapple, it does have anti-inflammatory benefits as well. So whenever you're deciding if you're going to do an enzyme, if you're going to do an acid, take a look at the skin and determine how much inflammation is associated with that client on there as well. So Circadia does have three different, we call them flavors of enzymes. So the three enzymes that we have, it is going to be cocoa enzyme, it's also raspberry enzyme, and also zymase enzyme. The way that they're listed on here is going to be based on activity level. So your least active is going to be your cocoa enzyme. Your middle active is going to be the raspberry enzyme. And then your most active is going to be the zymase enzyme. Your mixing instructions are going to be the same for all three of these. You want to mix 1 part powder to 3 parts activator. The other thing to kind of take in consideration whenever you're working with enzymes, enzymes are going to be most active when they are in a wet, warm environment. So all of our enzymes do call for either steam or even a damp 4x4, or just keep moisture and also keep steam onto the client's skin as well.
And something else to note with enzymes, enzymes are measured in specific activity, where acids are measured in pH. So the specific activity of the cocoa is the least, the raspberry the middle, the zymase the strongest. And the reason why we named them cocoa, raspberry, and zymase is not necessarily for the aroma that you're getting from each one of these products, but more from the actives that we're adding into each one of these formulations. So if you are accustomed to using the cocoa enzyme and then you purchase the raspberry and the zymase, and you think that you're going to have that same really sweet aroma with the raspberry and zymase, it's not necessarily the case. So we just want to be completely transparent with that. The cocoa obviously has a raw Hershey's cocoa powder in it that does have a really wonderful smell to it. The raw Hershey's cocoa powder is designed to deliver that anti-inflammatory benefit that George had mentioned. And then the raspberry is more for the red raspberry seed extract that we have in this formulation. So that is going to have natural azelaic acid, natural brightening components to it, but it doesn't have that same sweet aroma that you would think with raspberry. Bromelain in itself has a really earthy smell to it. It can be a little bit strong, and especially when we're utilizing it in a powder form, that is really the stinkiest form, I guess, of the ingredient. So it is a little bit of an earthy aroma. And then when you get to the zymase, we're using different lower grade AHA citric acids that will enhance some of the exfoliation, and also with a higher percentage of activity level of those three enzymes in that formulation. So sorry, George, I kind of jumped ahead, but we can go back to that original slide if you want to talk about the
Oh yeah, no worries.
enzymes. Sorry.
So we did jump ahead a little bit on there, but it was actually great information. So whenever we're talking about kind of enzymes, so the three digestive enzymes that are going to be in all three of the Circadia enzymes, they're going to be bromelain. We also have papain, and then also trypsin. So bromelain is going to be that digestive enzyme that's typically derived from pineapple. Papain is going to be a digestive enzyme that is usually derived from papaya. However, we're utilizing a unique ingredient or a unique enzyme called trypsin. So trypsin is an enzyme that's typically found in the digestive tracts of humans and animals to break down protein. Ours is going to be synthetically derived. So with all of our enzymes that we're utilizing, you do get a 360 exfoliation. Typically, when you're just utilizing bromelain or papain, those typically just digest the sidewalls of the desmosome, whereas the trypsin is going to provide a 360 exfoliation. So as Caitlin mentioned, the three enzymes that we do have in our range, we have the cocoa enzyme, which will be the least active. So the cocoa enzyme also has raw Hershey's cocoa powder that has been added to it. That does provide additional anti-inflammatory and antioxidant support. The cocoa enzyme, your key clientele for this one is going to be really someone that is rosacea, sensitive, acne prone, someone that has a lot of inflammation, a lot of redness. However, it can be beneficial for all skin types and all skin conditions, but if you're thinking about making it really specific to a certain clientele, I would typically recommend it to just the acne prone, rosacea, sensitive skin. However, everybody will benefit from this one. We also have a lot of clients that will utilize the cocoa enzyme for more of a seasonal type of facial as well. We pair this with like our s'mores facial, which is really good in the fall time. And then we also utilize the cocoa enzyme as part of our chocolate and champagne treatment, which would be utilized and kind of marketed more around Valentine's Day, the holiday time on there also. The next enzyme that we have, so just know that this is going to be based on strength, so the higher activity level. So your least active is cocoa, your next active is going to be the raspberry enzyme. So the bromelain, papain, and trypsin, higher activity level. However, this does have that red raspberry seed extract. The red raspberry seed extract is going to be a natural brightener. So the raspberry enzyme is really good for someone that's photo damage, hyperpigmentation, or also an anti-aging clientele with this one. The raspberry enzyme, like Caitlin had mentioned before, it's not that we're utilizing the fruit of the raspberry, so you're not getting like a raspberry scent to it. You do have some kind of berry smell to it. However, since it does have a higher concentration of bromelain, you do really smell some of that bromelain on this one. And then the last enzyme that we offer, it is called our zymase enzyme. A lot of the times you may hear this as our vitamin C enzyme as well. So we do have a higher activity of the bromelain, papain, and trypsin. However, we also added 3 different forms of vitamin C for its ability to brighten, tighten, and additional exfoliation on a client's skin. The 3 forms of vitamin C that you'll find in here, they are in a powder form that get activated at the same time as you activate the enzymes. So we do have the lemon peel extract. We also have L-ascorbic acid, and then we also have citric acid in this one. Kind of your key indications for the Zymase enzyme, someone that is really more of a damaged skin, highly keratinized skin. This enzyme also does really well on like the chest and the décolleté. As far as like body enzyme, the Zymase does really well because it does have higher activity with that one.
I used to use the Zymase quite frequently when I was treating patients. And again, we want to make sure that we're not allowing our customer or our client to dictate their treatment plan. And I tell this story quite a bit. When I first started as a provider, I was making the biggest mistake of letting my customer and client try and dictate what their treatment plan was. So I'd have somebody come in and they'd say, oh, my friend just got a Jesner, her skin looks great, I want the same thing. And in fear of losing that customer, I would do the treatment on them, even if they weren't necessarily the best candidate. And then I was wondering why I wasn't getting repeat business. So I was then transitioning my thought process to I'm the expert, which, you know, it takes you a bit of time to realize that, yes, we are the expert. Yes, we went through school. Yes, we understand the skin a lot better. And then creating and kind of moving their treatment plan to what's best for their skin type. So I was frequently using the Zymase as a transitional treatment option. So someone said, yes, I want the Jesner. My friend had it. I know they're not the best candidate. I would introduce them through the Zymase enzyme so I can get a baseline treatment for how their skin is going to react. And then I would move into a peel and maybe change the kind of peel that I was doing depending on what their baseline treatment was. Or if you had somebody who came in and said, you know, I want a peel, but then through your consultation, you realize that they're going to Mexico in a week and you can't really do a chemical peel. They're still going to get a very aggressive form of exfoliation, but just as George had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, there's no downtime and there's no inflammation associated with the enzymes. So you can still give them a powerful treatment, but then you don't have any of those additional negative side effects that you have when you do a traditional chemical peel. So the Zymase, I feel like, is a very undersold, underrated enzyme because, again, it's not as, you know, the aroma is not as great as the cocoa. The cocoa is what people really focus on, but I think that there is definitely a client for every one of the enzymes. And I would really encourage you to try the Zymase and also the raspberry. And I'm not sure if in the beginning this was mentioned, George, so stop me if it was, but you'll notice that the powder or the enzyme comes in a powder and an activator, which is a little bit different than most traditional enzymes on the market. We require and force you to solubilize the enzyme upon treatment. And the reason for that is enzymes themselves are designed to break down proteins, exactly as George had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. They're designed to break down that desmosome that sits between the cells. But enzymes themselves are also considered to be proteins. So if you have a pre-solubilized enzyme, those enzymes are basically cannibalizing themselves within the container, which leads to inconsistencies in strength. So at one treatment, you might have something that's highly enzymatic in its activity. And then the next time you use it, the enzyme might be almost non-existent. And we know so many different things can go wrong in the treatment room that making sure that you have consistent strength of your treatment options every single time is so important. So that's why we do force you to solubilize the enzyme upon treatment, but you know it's the strongest and you know it's the same percentage of enzyme every single time you treat. And that's something that's really important to us.
Yeah, and kind of another thing to add on to that. So you'll notice those mixing instructions, how they do have the 1 part powder to 3 parts activator. Just note that you'll always go through 2 activators before you go through that powder on there. So we do have a lot of estheticians that will purchase the 2 activators when they purchase the 1 powder. But the other thing is the activators are also universal as well. So the activators is just what's going to solubilize the enzyme and activate it. So all of your activity actually comes from the powder. So if you are utilizing the raspberry enzyme and you possibly ran out of the raspberry activator, but you know you do have Zymase activator or cocoa, you can utilize that to activate the powder as well. Another thing, we also have what's called our advanced mixology webinar, and also our advanced mixology kind of treatments as well. Another thing that will activate all of your enzymes is our functional mists. So you'll notice our enzymes are strictly enzymatic activity. We don't have any alpha hydroxy acids to it. We don't have any beta hydroxy acids to it as well. So, maybe you wanted to include a beta hydroxy acid to the cocoa enzyme. So what we do have is we have our white willow and juniper clearing mist. So you can utilize the white willow and juniper clearing mist to activate the cocoa enzyme powder on there as well. So not only are they going to get the exfoliation of those enzymes, you also add additional benefits from that white willow juniper. Another example is we do have the raspberry enzyme mask. Maybe we wanted to add additional kind of tyrosinase inhibitors or alpha MSH inhibitors. You can utilize the licorice and berberry brightening mist to activate that powder as well. And your cost per ounce is going to be the same. Most of our actual functional mists their price point is pretty similar to our activators. You'll just have to purchase them in double on there. So now, oh, sorry, go ahead, Caitlin.
Sorry, one quick thing. So George was mentioning a little bit of our mixology, and just one more quick tip on that. When you are removing the enzymes, what we have found to be the most successful is once the enzyme has been applied to the skin, if you lay damp 4x4s across the face, and we can do a video to show you what this looks like, but you basically unfold 2 4x4s and lay them one over the eyes and the other over the mouth and the chin, just exposing the nostrils only. That one keeps them wet and warm, as George mentioned in the beginning, is the 2 triggers that help to keep enzymes the most active. And then when you're removing, you can actually just pull those 4x4s off of the skin, and that really helps to keep them a little bit looser, to help assist with removal, and also to spare some of your towels if you're using the cocoa enzyme frequently. And then you can go in with just a dime size amount of the Amendola milk cleanser and really work the enzyme off of the skin with the cleanser. Not only are you going to reactivate the enzymatic activity, but you're also now adding in the AHA components of the lactic and mandelic acid that's in the Amendola milk cleanser. Then that's also going to help to make removal very, very easy. So those are our 2 tips that we suggest when going through the enzyme removal process.
But the biggest thing is you want to keep it pretty damp, the enzyme. Once the enzyme starts to dry up, it's no longer active, it's no longer functioning, and that's when it begins to become a little bit harder to remove. So even sometimes I like to massage over our enzymes, so I would really just kind of damp my fingertips in kind of water. Or another thing that I'll do is I'll spray one of my functional mists into my hands and I massage over top of these enzymes. That's going to keep it moving, it's going to keep it active, and it's going to allow the removal to come off a lot easier because you kept it kind of damp on there as well, and also utilizing the steam. So the kind of next category of treatments that Circadia does offer, we're really not going to spend quite a bit of time on this webinar, or in this webinar talking about our chemical peels. The reason for it is we just recently filmed a whole chemical peel webinar, and you can find that replay in a couple different places. You can visit the Circadia website, and you could do just go to circadia.com /space replay. Or if you're just on Facebook, if you go to Facebook and you search Circadia Educational Forum, it's a private group of just Circadia kind of estheticians on there. You just answer 3 questions and then you will be able to access all of these replays as well. However, Circadia does have quite a bit of different chemical peels. So kind of a brief overview of the Circadia peels in general is we have quite a bit of peels, but instead of thinking of us of having 9 peels, think of Circadia of having 2 categories of peels. We have a category of peels that are considered a gel base. We also have a category of peels that are an ethanol base or an alcohol base. So the key difference between those 2 kind of families of peels, your gel-based peel, what's going to determine the strength is going to be time. The longer it's left on, the more activity that you're going to get. With our gel-based peel, there's no delayed peeling, there's no downtime. All of that exfoliation is going to happen while that peel is on the skin until you neutralize it and remove it. Think of those gel-based peels, and the two that are there is the lactic and the alpha beta. Think of those as more as a facial upgrade, or think of them as a lunchtime type of peel. No delayed peeling, no downtime with those. What determines the strength is time. The longer they're left on, the more activity that you're going to get. On the other hand, we have what are considered your ethanol-based peels. And that's where you see on this presentation, it starts from the dermafrost down. From the dermafrost down, those are our ethanol-based peel. What determines the strength of these chemical peels is layers. The more layers you do, the more activity or the more exfoliation that you're gonna get on there as well. With our ethanol-based peels, there is gonna be that downtime. Skin typically starts peeling on day 3, and also there is a post-peel kit that is definitely recommended to be associated with those ones as well. But if you need more information on those, there's those 2 different places that you can actually find our full entire chemical peel on there. A lot of the times, if you're looking at our protocols, we do incorporate lactic acid and our alpha beta gel-based peel into a traditional facial setting as well on that. And you'll be able to find that information on our website. All right, so now we're gonna kind of jump into kind of treatment masks on here. So the Circadia treatment masks, they are very clinical as far as our masks. You know, so a lot of them will have a lot of exfoliation properties, they'll have some hydrating properties, but we did combine our treatment mask with different signature kind of spa aromas and spa scents. So not only do you get that very clinical benefit of our masks, you also get that smell good, feel good benefit with these ones as well. The way that we're going to kind of talk about these masks is based on, you know, when we first start, it's going to be super universal for everybody. And then as we get to them, we'll talk about which skin condition and which skin type they're really ideal for. Caitlin, do you want to start out with marshmallow?
Sure. So the Marshmallow Whip Hydrating Mask is one of the masks that we are including in the staycation kit, which means that it does have really great healing components to it, hydrating components, but it's not necessarily considered super active. So this is a wonderful mask to be using for more of your sensitive, rosacea, compromised skin types. We love to incorporate this in our post-peel follow-up facial because, again, it has great hydrating and healing properties to it. If you're familiar with Circadia, if you listen through some of the previous webinars when we're talking about the Aquaporin Hydrating Cream, one of the key benefits or key ingredients in that product is the diffuporin peptide. And this is a really unique hydrating peptide. So this is going to help to rehydrate those aquaporin channels. There's so many times when you're treating clients, especially if you live in an area of relatively low humidity, where it's more of the desert or high altitude, like where George and I are at. But you can have clients that drink gallons of water, they have fantastic eating habits, they're exercising daily, and then as soon as you get them on your table, their skin soaks up every single product that you put onto the skin. And you're wondering what is going on, why you feel like there's such a moisture deficiency. And a lot of the times for those particular clients, there's an intrinsic dehydration that you're dealing with. And what's happening is that you are not having enough water fluidity between in and out of the cell. So there's not enough of these aquaporin channels that can help as highways of hydration that surround each one of our individual cells. So the diffuporin peptide is designed specifically to rehydrate those channels. So it's going to give you more cellular hydration, which will really lead to more of a balanced skin. So this is one of the key ingredients that we have in here. We also have multiple weights of hyaluronic acid to help to stagger hydration throughout the skin. And then we have some really nice healing components with the Marshmallow Eco Extract, which is one of the most soothing and calming ingredients on the market. And we also partner that with the Royal Jelly, which has that same regenerative anti-inflammatory potential to it as well. So one of my suggestions when utilizing this mask is to make sure to keep this mask nice and hydrated with either steam or a warm towel over top of it. If you don't, the emollients that we're using have a tendency to rubberize, and when it rubberizes, it can lead to that kind of a gommaged feel, but in my opinion, it's rather difficult to remove once it starts to get massaged and gommaged. So I usually suggest to put a warm towel or steam over top so you can really utilize those emollients to be able to melt and kind of drench the skin in ultimate hydration. So that's my biggest tip for this mask. And we also utilize this quite a bit in our mixology. So as George had mentioned earlier, we have a full webinar that discusses mixology, but it can cut the activity of any of your other masks. So if you've gone through a relatively aggressive treatment plan, maybe you've done the, the lactic peel and then they reacted a little bit to it and you'd want to have them get a mask like the Australian Superberry, but you think that AHA compilation might be a little bit too much, just mix equal parts of Marshmallow Whip and Australian Superberry. You're still getting those great benefits, but you're just cutting the activity of the Australian Superberry with the marshmallow mask. So tons of different ways to utilize this. Again, for compromised skin, wound healing, hydration, and post-peel follow-up facial are my favorite ways to use this mask.
And one of the ways that I like to use it is, so marshmallow mask, you definitely have to think of it as your hydrating mask, your soothing, your calming, your anti-inflammatory, your redness reducing mask as well. So whenever I do facials, my facials always start out with warm. So I'll utilize steam, I'll utilize a hot towel. However, there towards the end of my facials, if I'm doing a redness reducing facial, I'm utilized ingredients. If you're doing like our oxygen, I'll utilize oxygen to reduce redness, like a vasoconstrictor or something like that. And sometimes I'll finish off with the marshmallow whip mask. So I utilize a lot of cold at the end of my facials. So if you apply marshmallow whip mask and apply gauze or apply a 4x4 that's been wet or damp over top, I like to do like an ice globe massage over this, or even like a jade roller, something that's cold, cold stone massage over this as well. And we utilize cold in the we utilize cold or because it also reduces redness. It's also vasoconstriction. Heat is going to be vasodilation. So heat is always going to bring redness to the skin, but it's also going to enhance product absorption. So if you do have a client that is more of a really dry, dehydrated, something that's warmth or heat is really going to drive this mask a little bit deeper. If you have someone more that is compromised, redness reducing, they're irritated, utilizing cold at the end of the facial is going to be a little bit more beneficial for that client also.
And if you want to, just type into the chat section. George has amazing facial technique, and he always starts his treatments fast and slow. He's got great circadian rhythm components to add into some of the movements. So in the chat section, if you're interested in seeing like maybe a technique webinar or some more of those treatment option piece advice, is that the word I'm looking for?
Education?
Options?
Enhancements?
Enhancements, thank you. Type it into the chat section because that's definitely something that we can possibly plan for future webinars.
It would have to be on a mannequin because I'm social distancing.
I just wanted to jump in real quick on this and just mention how versatile the marshmallow mask is and how much clients really love this mask. I would definitely just like to point out that it's a crowd favorite. It feels good, it smells good, and people go crazy for it.
Yeah, and then we also launched this mask. It was a seasonal mask. We launched it where we modified it a little bit and we added CBD to it as well. That was super popular a few months ago. I'm not sure if we have inventory, Caitlin. We don't have inventory on that anymore, right? But Well does, is that correct?
We do. So we still have very, very limited supply. If it is something you're interested in, you can email us at info@circadia.com and we can see if we have any of those left. I think we have like 50 maybe.
That was my favorite mask. It was this mask, just the only addition is we added CBD to it. And it was a fan favorite for quite some time. So I would definitely, if you guys can, it's a 4 ounce. I'm not sure of the price, but they will know at the corporate office. But you can definitely reach out to them to see if you can get some of that limited supply also. So then the next mask, which is another kind of fan favorite, this mask is also included in our staycation kit as well. So the caviar lime and passion fruit enzyme mask, it's kind of a dual functioning type of mask. It does have an enzyme aspect to it or an exfoliating aspect to it. However, it also has antioxidants, almost like it's going to provide a lot of antioxidant support. So it is called caviar lime and passion fruit. So there's no fish eggs in here. So that's typically the number one question I get when we talk about caviar lime. They believe that it is actually fish eggs. However, caviar lime extract, it is this fruit that is typically grown in the Australian outback. You'll also hear it as like a finger lime. You'll typically see it like that as well. However, this caviar lime or this finger lime, it's sourced because it provides a second generation of alpha hydroxy acids. So when you look at this fruit, it typically looks like a traditional lime as far as like the texture. The color can vary from like pinks to yellows to bright greens. However, the texture on the outside of this lime is like a traditional lime. However, when you cut this open, the fruit of it looks like these little caviar eggs. And those caviar eggs is what is sourced because it's a natural form of alpha hydroxy acid, a second generation. So alpha hydroxy acids, they are typically something that's a low pH. Something that's a low pH is what's going to attach itself to the protein of the skin and pull it apart. A caviar lime extract is going to shred the channel that's holding those keratinocytes together. So we paired the caviar lime extract with a bromelain enzyme. However, this bromelain enzyme is going to be encapsulated. So when you first apply this onto your client's skin or you apply it onto your skin, you don't feel much activity. It actually has to get activated. So the heat of your skin will burst that encapsulation. But we typically recommend to massage over this. The heat of your hands and the heat of the client's skin will burst it, or utilizing some type of steam or some type of heat. We also partnered that with passion fruit. So the signature scent that you get in this mask is a passion fruit type of scent. However, if you've never smelled passion fruit, you will say it smells almost like baby food. I heard baby bananas before. And it's because, you know, we're all used to passion fruit smelling like a sugary substance. However, if you've gone to any of the islands where passion fruit is grown, in Hawaii, it's called a lilikoi, and you smell the actual raw, fresh passion fruit, then that's when you'll start to blend this scent or this smell together on there. The passion fruit, not only is it going to provide the signature scent to this mask, it is also going to be loaded with antioxidants and vitamin A as well with this one.
So the optimal peak for exfoliation with the encapsulated bromelain is about 15 to 20 minutes of being applied onto the skin. So you'll notice here our pro tip is using this as the massage medium. This is such a game changer because if you've ever tried to use our vitamin veil cleanser, even if you rehydrate it with a mist, it still gives you relatively limited slip. You can get maybe 5 to 7 minutes of slip, and depending on what your treatment protocol calls for, whether you're doing a luxury extended facial where you have an extended massage, you really need something that is going to give you that elegant slip but long lasting slip. So if you use the caviar lime and passion fruit enzyme as your massage medium, if it does have a tendency to dry out, which it does maybe around 10 minutes, you can add a little bit of mist on top of it and it will extend the amount of slip you have. But now you have something that pulls double duty. So you're extending the time, so you're getting to that optimal peak of exfoliation with that encapsulated bromelain, and you're also now getting a wonderful massage with secondary benefits of the passion fruit, and it smells amazing. We did just talk a lot about why we force you to solubilize an enzyme upon treatment. Now we have it in a pre-solubilized formulation, and again, the only reason why we feel comfortable pre-solubilizing this particular enzyme is because of the unique encapsulation process that we have for this particular form of bromelain. So it is still very safe. It is still very active. But again, as George mentioned, you want to burst that encapsulation with a little bit of a massage in the beginning and the heat from your hands and their skin.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes clients may say that this is a little too active. So just remember Caitlin's tip from the marshmallow mask. If you wanted to cut down on the activity of the caviar lime and the bromelain, you can just add the marshmallow mask to it. And you know, there's no set mixing instructions on those. Sometimes you may want it to be heavy marshmallow type of mask and just a little bit of caviar. That's perfectly fine. Or maybe sometimes you want heavy caviar, lime, and passion fruit enzyme mask and just a little bit of marshmallow to cut the activity. That's fine as well. Some people will just kind of mix it equal parts, but I always determine my mixing instructions based on my client's sensitivity level on there as well. However, most clients can actually tolerate this mask pretty nicely, especially if you're utilizing a massage over it. So the massage is definitely enhancing the exfoliation. It's also helping to increase blood circulation. But one of the biggest things that it's doing is it's decreasing the activity. So a lot of the times when clients have a mask on their face and you just leave them, don't do anything, all they're focused on is just that mask. That's all they're thinking about. However, if you include some type of hand massage, arm massage, facial massage, you took their mind off of what's happening on their skin to their massage that they're actually getting on there as well. So the next mask that we have, we tell you everything about this mask, where the ingredients come from, what it does, and pretty much everything that you need to know about this mask. So, and it's all in the name. So we do have, it's Australian Superberry Antioxidant Mask. So there's Australian berries in here that provide antioxidant support. So key benefits of the 3 berries, they're called pepperberry, ryeberry, montrese. Think of these 3 berries as potent antioxidants, minerals, and vitamin support. However, we paired that with 2 different alpha hydroxy acids. So we do have a 2.5% lactic acid in here and a 2.5% mandelic acid. So you have about a 5% alpha hydroxy acid. So whereas the caviar lime is providing more of a enzyme exfoliation with antioxidant support, the Australian Superberry Antioxidant Mask is going to provide more of an AHA exfoliation with antioxidant support. So this mask is typically indicated for someone that's more of a pigmented skin, anti-aging skin. It does help to increase cell turnover, but it also supports hydration in the skin with this one as well. We do also like this mask for someone that's more of a dry acne. As you guys all know, mandelic acid is also antibacterial, but it also addresses that post-inflammatory pigmentation.
This is also a great mask for anybody who lives in a highly polluted environment. With the ryeberry, pepperberry, and montrese being second generation antioxidants, they have the ability to quench out free radicals on more than a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you look at most free radicals, most antioxidants, we're thinking about them as our first line of defense. So they are all designed to basically sacrifice themselves to neutralize out a free radical by donating an electron so it can save and protect and preserve the cell. But a lot of antioxidants that we have are only able to quench out 1 free radical at a time before it has to either be regenerated or it can only do 1. So with the benefit of these second generation antioxidants, in particular the ryeberry, pepperberry, and montrese, is that they're going to be able to quench out multiple free radicals. So think of them as kind of like a lasso that can lasso up multiple free radicals and neutralize them out almost immediately. So those are great for, again, people living in areas of high pollution. And then the lactic and mandelic acid, again, can help to give a little bit more of that exfoliated benefit to help to brighten the skin, remove some of those surface proteins to allow a little bit more light to refract from the surface. So you get an immediate, instant benefit when you apply this mask.
So another kind of key benefits of this mask as well are different kind of ways or tips and tricks to utilize this in the treatment room. So, if you wanted to cut down on the activity, but add additional healing and hydrating properties, you do have that marshmallow mask that you can add to it. However, some of our estheticians, they like to boost the the benefits, or they like to boost that lactic and mandelic acid. So if you wanted to increase the activity of this mask, you can just mix it with our almondola milk cleanser. So you can mix it in equal parts almondola milk cleanser with the Australian Superberry Antioxidant Mask. So the almondola milk cleanser also has lactic and mandelic acid. It's about a 3% combined on there as well. So if you were to add that to the Australian Superberry antioxidant mask, you get anywhere between an 8 and 10% alpha hydroxy acid just to increase that alpha hydroxy acid exfoliation to this one. And the other thing, you know, it smells amazing. Mixing those two together, you know, we have a lot of kind of really kind of gyms that utilize our masks in their spa department as well. And they typically will kind of mimic this to like their smoothie bar. So the Australian Superberry smoothie with the dairy-free milk cleanser, something like that is how they like to market this also. So the next mask that we have here is called our firming peptide mask. So our firming peptide mask, it's another unique mask that is it's going to be an activator and also a powder on here as well. So you do mix this right before you apply it to your client's skin on there. So the mixing instructions, you know, there's no set way to mix it. You know, you can also mix it based on your client's needs on there. For example, if you have a client that doesn't need a lot of tightening and firming benefits, but what they do need is a lot of detoxification, you can make this mask a little bit thinner in consistency. However, if you have a client that has more of those fine lines and wrinkles, you know, you really want to see an instant firming and lifting of it, then you can mix it a little bit thicker on here as well. So our firming peptide mask, when you mix this and you apply it onto the client's skin, it does a couple different things. As it's starting to dry, it's plumping blood flow up to the surface of the skin. As it's increasing blood flow to the surface of the skin, it's also creating that vasoconstriction. So that vasoconstriction that's happening is as this mask is hardening and as it's tightening onto the skin. So you're pumping up hemoglobin up to the surface of the skin with that vasoconstriction. And then as soon as you remove this mask, what's going to happen, once you remove it, that's when those same capillaries are going to dilate. So it's almost you're getting a nice detoxification with this mask, all about vasoconstriction and vasodilation. However, most clients love this mask for the instant gratification. It's going to instantly plump up those fine lines and wrinkles.
Right, exactly. And so you'll notice in some cases of acneic clientele, and we've got some before and after pictures, I think in a different presentation, but if you have a client that has that really pebbly congestion, especially around the chin area, where you can definitely have some sort of a hormonal link to their acne, this is a great way to help to detoxify the skin, because as George mentioned, as that blood circulates back to the heart to get reoxygenated, it's pulling toxins out of the skin, and those are being drained out through the lymphatic system. So we always like to say that this is a mask that you hate that you love, because it can be a little bit tedious, and if you don't have the proper mixing instructions or utensils or the proper removal instructions, it can be a little bit frustrating. The first time that we were trying this, George and I were kind of playing around with it in the treatment room, and we just put a hot towel on top of the client's skin to remove it, and the towel stuck because it's just so tight. So not only were they feeling this really intense tightening, but now we had to brace the skin and basically tug this towel, poor thing, tug this towel off. So through trial and error, George has come up with a pretty scientific ratio of different ingredients and different products for removal, and then also for actually mixing it up. So do you want to
Yeah, let's kind of walk you guys through the process on here. So this mask, at first, it may be a love to hate relationship. You know, you love the benefits, but you hate the application and the removal. So with these different kind of tips, you'll realize that the actual application, the mixing is super easy, and the removal pretty much comes off with pretty much no assistance, no pressure whatsoever. So you're kind of, the way that I like to mix it personally is I do a 2-to-1 ratio. I typically mix 2 parts of the firming peptide mask, that powder, to 1 part of the activator. So I like mine a little bit more on the thicker consistency. So I typically will start with that 2-to-1 ratio. So at the beginning of my facial is I'm going to mix these in the dish. I don't mix them. All I do is just combine the powder and the activator, and I just let it sit there, you know, at the beginning of my facial. So what's starting to happen is that activator is starting to loosen up that powder. So right before you go to apply it to the client's skin, you want to take something that is pretty more of a thicker type of kind of utensil to mix it with. I typically like to mix it with just a wooden applicator. We do have some estheticians that will use like a little metal whisk. However, if so you had it sitting in the dish right before the start of your facial, or at least 5 to 10 minutes before you go to mix it, it's already dissolved that powder. So when you go to mix it, it mixes right up. So it's almost like if you have two products that were sitting in the product and it started to kind of mix already on its own. When you apply this onto the client's skin, the time that you typically want to leave it on the skin is at least 25 to 30 minutes. So I know that's a long time to leave a mask on a client's skin, but you get the full benefits when it's completely dried and when it's naturally dried. You can also enhance or you can speed up the time with the fan. I know Caitlin also likes to utilize some type of light therapy over this mask, especially like a red light. One of the key benefits of this mask is it does help to increase ATP energy by bringing oxygen into the mitochondria of the skin as well. So if you're utilizing like red LED, this mask, it dries pretty opaque. So the LED is gonna penetrate through the mask because it is that opaque in color, and red LED is also what's going to increase ATP energy as well. The other thing is the removal sometimes can be a little difficult as well. So what you want to do to remove this mask, so you need two products that you're going to mix together right before you remove it. So what you're going to take is you're going to take the snow algae and spirulina cooling mask. So since we're really just specifically talking about our top treatments on here, we don't have the snow algae in this one, but you can find information on that on our website as well. So the snow algae is going to be a gel-based mask, but it also has different forms of algae that's going to be in there. You're going to mix the snow algae and spirulina, not much. You maybe need about half a teaspoon. You're going to mix that with a high foaming cleanser. My recommendation for the high foaming cleanser is going to be the lipid replacing cleansing gel. You'll add at least a drop or two of water. And what you're going to do is you're going to whip that up and you're going to get a high foaming action to it. You get quite a bit of foam, almost like a shave gel. You're going to apply that high foam right over top the mask. You'll notice that that foam is going to start to instantly dissolve the mask. And then as it starts to dissolve the mask, I put a hot towel or a warm towel over top and I press it into the skin a little bit over top the mixture and then leave that on until the mask kind of cools a little bit. This is typically about the last 5 minutes that this firming peptide mask is going to be on the skin. As soon as you remove that mask or the towel, you'll notice that the firming peptide mask comes up right with it as well. Caitlin, do I have you still?
Yes, I'm still here.
Awesome. So that's kind of the mixing instructions on this one as well. Hey, Caitlin, do you want to just kind of mention how you love to utilize this with LED a little bit? I briefly talked about it, but I wanted to see if you want to talk about the ATP energy production with this one.
Sure. And we do have a video of the mixing and removal. We do have to reshoot it. So I know that when we're talking through it, if you're accustomed to the mask and you know what we're talking about with each step, it's relevant information. But if it's new to you, you're probably thinking, why would I even mess with this? Because it sounds so complicated. But trust me, if you're on our educational forum, if you just type in firming peptide mask, you will look at some phenomenal before and after pictures. It's really hugely beneficial for that instant gratification. You'll see some of the wrinkles unfolding right before your eyes. So it really is worth the effort, and your clients will see a very amazing result. Now, as George has mentioned, the mask ideally needs to sit on the skin for at least 30 minutes. And we all know that in our schedules, there's minimal time to focus on a mask, and really focusing on it for a full 30 minutes is a lot of time, unless you're doing a luxury treatment where you're doing a 90-minute service. So what we use the LED for is mainly to accelerate the drying process. So it is going to slightly heat the mask, and with that heating, it's going to enhance the drying so you can leave the mask on for less time. That's really the key in using LED. You can use a fan as well, but I personally think from a sensation perspective, the nice warmth of the mask is a lot better than constant blowing from a fan that's going to dry the mask on the skin. So that would be my suggestion for using an LED light on top of the mask. Now we do have a couple of key ingredients that we are incorporating into this on top of the egg albumin. So it is an egg albumin based product, and that's how we're getting the intense tightening, but we go beyond that with our ingredient profiles. So you'll notice that we have L-carnosine and L-carnitine. One of them is an amazing anti-glycation ingredient. The other one is going to enhance antioxidant support. We've got beta-glucan, but more importantly, we've got aspartic and glutamic acid. And both of these, when combined together, create infinite amounts of peptides in the skin. That's why we refer to it as our firming peptide mask. So aspartic and glutamic combined together, they create all of these amazing amino acids, amazing peptide technologies in the skin. So they're considered enzyme modulating peptides, but they're fantastic for boosting the skin's energy, helping to enhance ATP production, as George had mentioned. And it also helps to protect the skin, plus remove some additional toxins. So it's a very well-rounded formulation. It stimulates ATP production, it unfolds wrinkles, it detoxifies the skin. It's great as a red carpet treatment option. So we can't say enough good things about it. Again, we really would suggest to go to our forum to look at some of the before and afters.
Awesome.
And it doesn't matter your wavelength for the LED. So again, I mean, 640 would be what we would think would be optimal for creating ATP, but we're not necessarily utilizing it for that particular reason. We're using it more for its heating component. So infrared, red, or even blue could use the same, oh my gosh, clearly English is not coming to me today, can be used for all the same benefits is what I'm trying to say.
So that pretty much is going to conclude our top treatments on here as well. The next webinar that we'll be doing, not next week, we have Michael who's going to be hosting a webinar next week. So he is working on an amazing presentation. So we'll be kind of announcing what that webinar is going to be later on today. But following that webinar is when we're going to talk about our Circadia specialty treatments. So we do have two specific treatments that Circadia is known for, which is our Circadia oxygen treatment. And then we also have our switch dermal rejuvenation system. So even though those are two top treatments of Circadia, they really need their own webinar to really discuss the benefits, the features, and how they're actually working on the skin. So I believe we do have about 5 to 10 minutes, about 5 minutes if you want to open it up to questions, Caitlin.
Yes, definitely. I know we've got Emily on here who's doing great with the questions. We do have a question in here about past webinars. So we have been working diligently on creating a library of videos and webinars. And if you haven't noticed, if you've been a customer of Circadia's for a long time now, we have completely revamped our website and created more content for you as professionals. So there's there's 3 different places where you can view some of our past webinars. The first one George mentions in the beginning of the presentation, and we'll have Emily type it out as an answer in the chat section. It's circadia.com/replay, which George has right here up on the screen. So this is giving you some retail product knowledge, back bar product knowledge, Michael's previous webinars on treating skin conditions, on pigmentation, our combined webinar with LightStim and Well. We've got innovative ingredient technology for peptide stem cells, 2nd generation vitamins. So this is a wealth of information, and this is a blocked site. So your customers won't be able to see this. This is only professionals. This is really giving you the meat of who we are as far as, elevated levels of education. The second place to go to see other videos is just on our website. There's, where is it again, George?
Yeah, so once you create a pro login, so I'll log into mine right now. So once you create a pro login, your ribbon at the top, it changes and it goes to resources. So when you click on resources, There's a couple different places. So if you wanted more self-guided training, if you click on this button right here that says enroll now, it's gonna pull up a second web page. And what you're gonna have access to is our free self-guided education on here. So we do have it set up in two different ways. We have our Circadia back bar training and our Circadia retail training. So both of these kind of modules are set up between 12 and 19 mini lessons that are going to be separated between small videos and also quizzes. So for example, if you were to take the back bar product knowledge, what would happen is you would do a 10 to 15 minute video on enzymes, and then right after it's going to prompt you to take a quiz. So you'll be able to kind of do self-guided. What's great about this resource right here is you create a login, so it's going to save your information. So you don't have to finish it in one setting. We have some estheticians that are super busy all day long. You know, they don't have time to watch a 2-hour video. So with this one, you can do maybe 15 to 20 minutes here and there, and then you'll be able to complete both of these sessions as well.
So amazing about this particular resource, the Institute of Advanced Aesthetics, if you have new hires and if you have front desk or other providers that you want to get trained up, and maybe you know, we haven't been able to get you scheduled for an in-person, maybe we don't have a rep that's in your actual city. These are fantastic resources for you to give to your employees to be able to go through, and you require them to test out. So if you have somebody who is, you know, moving and transitioning from front desk to an esthetician, maybe they just got their license, they're excited to start practicing, they have to test out of each one of these sections in order to start to treat. Or if you don't have somebody who is doing chemical peels yet, but they want to start, they have to listen through and then go to do the quiz on the chemical peels before they can start treating. So it's a really good way for you to keep your staff accountable, and also to utilize this as furthering their education with Circadia if we aren't able to get out to see you immediately. And the goal and the intent of the Institute of Aesthetics is to continue to add additional content. Our plan is to have more of our level 1, which are the two categories you just saw, but also to expand on that to a level 2, a level 3. And if you start to work with us and you start to level up with us, then we will certify you as a Circadia diamond educator or a platinum educator. And with each phase and stage, we will send you a certificate, we'll send you a pin. If you get to our premium status, we send you a plaque. So we really encourage you to grow with us and to elevate your level of education. And there is no prouder moment that we have that with some of our other educators when they've completed the diamond level and they can now talk to their customers and clients as a diamond educator with Circadia. So all of this is the end goal of this program, and we are very dedicated to enhancing the amount of content that we have on there. Now, the third resource, George will walk you through this one as well.
So kind of where the resources center is, just one more time. So you do have to have a professional login for our website. So pretty easy to do. It does take about 48 hours. We've had a huge demand. So we have to just verify license, we verify information first. And then once you log in, you'll see I'm logged in right here. What you'll get is this little button right here that says resources on here. And then that's when you'll have access to this information. So very first thing that is be on the top is gonna be that enroll now. That button takes you to the self-guided training. But underneath that is where you'll find our protocols for all of our signature treatments. You'll also find our intake forms, consent forms. All of these are downloadable links. So once you press this button, it's just going to download that for you on there. But also, we also have like our marketing and branding resources center on here as well. So we do have social media folder on here. So if you click on that button, it's going to pull up these different images. All you do is click, right click, save image as, and now it's set up for Instagram and Facebook on here. And you find all of that underneath the resources center on here. It's under social media folder for that one. And then you also have, if you wanted to print a point of purchase display item, if you just want to print it and put it in a frame, you'll click on that. And it has all of this information that you could just download and print, all high resolution images on here. So I believe that we're pretty much out of time on here. Was there any other questions that we came in, Emily or Caitlin, before we finish up this webinar?
No, George, I think you did a really good job of answering all of the questions that were asked. I just want to leave one more comment on the firming peptide mask. I think it's really great the first time that you do it to do a trial run on a friend, your mom, just somebody you know, so you feel super confident when you're working with your client. And I really feel like that takes any of the issues out of it. And I just think practice always makes perfect anytime you're using professional products. But great job, George and Caitlin.
Awesome. And then I'm just going to finish off. This is our contact information. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, take a picture of it, this is how you can get a hold of us. So info@circadia.com. Website is www.circadia.com. And our 800 number is 800-630-4710. All right, so thank you so much for joining us. Once again, our next webinar is going to be next Wednesday, same time, same registration link. However, our topic is going to be announced later on today. This is something that Michael Pugliese has been really working on these last couple of weeks, and he's super excited to present the information.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.